Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad. Amma ba'd. So this is an article from the United Nations news website. So the United Nations website has a section dedicated to news for global issues. And on the 4th of March 2021, so I'm a little bit late with this, but on the 4th of March it says, anti-Muslim hatred has reached epidemic proportions, says UN rights expert, urging action by states. Again, anti-Muslim hatred has reached epidemic proportions, says UN rights expert, urging action by states. So an expert at the United Nations is urging countries to tackle a problem which has become of epidemic proportions. And this problem is the spread of the hatred of Muslims. This is very interesting. It's on a par, you could say, when the World Health Organization recognized that a particular virus is reaching epidemic proportions. The World Health Organization, it's similar to the United Nations, but from a health perspective, they urged nations to take action because of a virus which was of epidemic proportions. And we saw the world react. We're currently under a lockdown in the United Kingdom, and throughout the world there's restrictions on travel, the economy is shut down. So what kind of response do we expect from the world's nations in response to this call from the experts at the United Nations? Institutional suspicion and fear of Muslims and those perceived to be Muslim has escalated to epidemic proportions, the Human Rights Council heard on Thursday. Addressing the Council in Geneva, UN Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Religion or Belief, independent rights expert Ahmed Shahid, said that numerous states, regional and international bodies were to blame. So he is actually blaming countries and institutions, international institutions, as well as regional institutions. Subhanallah, this is a global issue. This is a thing, and it's at the highest levels if states are to blame. In a report to the Council, he cited European surveys in 2018 and 2019 that showed that nearly 4 in 10 people held unfavorable views about Muslims. In 2017, 30% of Americans viewed Muslims in a negative light, the Special Rapporteur added. He said that states had responded to security threats by adopting measures which disproportionately target Muslims and define Muslims as both high risk and at risk of radicalization. These measures include restricting Muslims from living according to their belief system, the securitization of religious communities, limits on access to citizenship, socio-economic exclusion, and pervasive stigmatization of Muslim communities. Mr. Shahid noted that these developments followed the 9/11 terrorist attacks and other acts of terrorism reportedly carried out in the name of Islam. He further raised concerns that in states where Muslims are in the minority, they're frequently targeted based on stereotypical Muslim characteristics, such as names, skin color, and clothing, including religious attire, such as headscarves. So if you're applying for a job and you have a Muslim name, right, don't expect to be called for an interview. If your skin color is, if you're living in Europe and your skin color is not white, don't expect to be called for an interview. If you wear a hijab or dress or appear as a Muslim, you're going to face discrimination. The independent expert said that Islamophobic discrimination and hostility were often intersectional, such as where Muslim women may face a triple penalty as women, as being women, minority ethnic, and Muslim. Harmful stereotypes and tropes about Muslims and Islam are chronically reinforced by mainstream media, powerful politicians, influencers of popular culture, and in academic discourse. So look at this. The mainstream media, these Joe Rogan kind of idiots, powerful politicians, powerful politicians, and influencers of popular culture, as well as academic discourse. Can you believe it? The report emphasized that critiques of Islam should never be conflated with Islamophobia, adding that international human rights law protects individuals, not religions. The criticism of the ideas, leaders, symbols, or practices of Islam is not Islamophobic in itself, unless it's accompanied by hatred or bias towards Muslims in general. I strongly encourage states to take all necessary measures to combat direct and indirect forms of discrimination against Muslims and prohibit any advocacy of religious hatred that constitutes incitement to violence, the UN expert said. And look at the right-hand side, there's a picture of a woman wearing a niqab. It says, French full-body veil ban violated women's freedom of religion, UN Human Rights Committee. Subhanallah. Stand united against anti-Muslim hatred, urges Guterres, after mosque shootings in New Zealand leave 49 dead. So, this is an issue. It's of such significance that it's compared to, I guess, the virus. It's described as being of epidemic proportions. How will the states respond? If you're a Muslim living, well, anywhere in the world, pretty much. I mean, what are you going to do in response to this? What should we do? At least spread awareness that this is a big problem. In the meantime, do a search for somebody called Myers Leonard. See that? Myers Leonard. Myers Leonard is a basketball player in the NBA in the United States. And he is somebody who, in his spare time, when he's not playing basketball, is online streaming, playing video games. Now, whilst streaming one of his sessions, after getting killed and destroyed or whatever happened to him in the game, he used a word which the media has described as a slur, anti-Semitic slur. What is the word he used? Well, it's a word that rhymes with Mike, okay? And I don't think he used the word Mike. Anyhow, do a search for his name and look at the amount of media interest in this story. We have TYT, the Young Turks Sports Network. Myers Leonard uses anti-Semitic slur during live stream. The Inside Crew reacts to Myers Leonard's comments. Michael Rappaport, famous New Yorker, destroys Myers Leonard after him using the anti-Semitic slur. Hassanabi, I don't know who that is. First time I said that. I've heard of him. Max Kellerman and Stephen A. from ESPN discuss Myers Leonard's apology for using anti-Semitic slur. Reactions from Barkley, Shaq, Jet. Myers Leonard's career is over after this. He received an indefinite suspension. Wow. Even Adam Silver, the current head of the NBA, has said that the NBA have fined Myers Leonard $50,000. That's the highest fine they could issue, by the way, $50,000. BLM-loving NBA player Myers Leonard drops racist slur, proving the NBA is full of hypocrites. Wow. The Miami Heat will release Myers Leonard after he used the anti-Semitic slur. So his career is over. It's finished. He used an anti-Semitic slur and his career is over. Anti-Semitism is a crime. You cannot use a slur against the Jewish people in what's called anti-Semitism without facing this type of backlash. Now that's interesting with regards to Priti Patel, because I'm sure we'll all remember she, in response to Wiley's anti-Semitic comments, she stood up in Parliament and spoke specifically about the issue. But do a search on YouTube and see if you can find any video of her speaking in Parliament. It seems to have been completely removed. YouTube and Google have removed any reference of that video. That's quite telling. I wonder why. Anyhow, I found an article on the Independent newspaper which shows that Priti Patel was labelled a hypocrite for her comments on Wiley's anti-Semitic social media posts. She said in her Twitter post, "The anti-Semitic posts from Wiley are abhorrent. They should not have been able to remain on Twitter and Instagram for so long, and I've asked them for a full explanation. Social media companies must act much faster to remove such appalling hatred from their platforms." Housing Minister Robert Jenrick also addressed the issue, saying he was appalled to see Wiley's anti-Semitic rant on social media. Okay. However, look at some of the backlash. On Twitter, somebody called Asma X writes, "The reaction Wiley's tweets got from Priti Patel and the British media compared to Katie Hopkins' years of constant Islamophobia and racism on both Twitter and Instagram is very telling. Priti Patel, when Katie Hopkins, Tommy Robinson, or Nigel Farage spread extreme racist Islamophobic views and amass millions of followers. She is, in emojis, sleeping and has her mouth zipped closed." So there you go, right? In summary, the United Nations have expressed, or the Special Rapporteur for the United Nations has expressed his dire warning to the state of what he calls epidemic proportions of anti-Muslim hatred globally, and he pointed out that this is perpetuated by senior powerful politicians, as we can see here with Priti Patel, who takes action against anti-Semitism but does nothing against Islamophobia. And so it's not only, it seems to be something that's tolerated in society. But anyway, we're facing something of epidemic proportions. Now, what are we going to do? Just sit down and accept it? Is there anything we can do? I'd like to know your suggestions. Should you speak to your MP? How do you raise awareness about this? I know some government organizations, they teach things like subconscious bias training to help prevent discrimination in hiring processes in companies. But what needs to be done about this anti-Muslim hatred that's spreading and has become or has reached epidemic proportions? Yeah, again, should you speak to your members of parliament, your councillors, your bosses at work? Should we be doing more writing to the media? What should we do? Should Muslims just finally get up and leave and go and establish a Muslim land of their own? And I doubt this anti-Muslim hatred is just in non-Muslim countries. I believe it's also in Muslim countries where people who are practicing their religion are looked down upon as being backwards and medieval. And people who are trying to be Western and adopt liberal values and become modernized, they are the ones who look down at the Muslims. They're also pushing anti-Muslim hatred. Anyhow, that's what I thought I'd share. Thank you for watching.